Hello, everyone. Hope everyone is having a great day. I am Shelly and Dunkley, and welcome to another episode of Conversations with Echo. I'm really glad everybody could be here. We are going to start in a little bit because we're going to wait until a few more persons come on. I'm really excited about today. Excited about every day, actually. It's quite um, a fulfilling moment for me. It's a passion come true, and um, yeah, going green. It's something that I love to talk about, but not just talk about, but I also try to live as best as possible. Um, going green every single day. Basic things we try to recycle as much as possible. Try to just take care of ourselves as well, because it's not just our environment, but it's also ourselves as individuals. As persons, we want to make sure that we are living healthy and we are also creating a healthy environment around us. So, welcome once again. We have two ladies today. I'm really excited about that. I'm always excited. I need another adjective, but I'm really excited about having these ladies today. We're going to be talking about water security and climate change. Um, when or in our previous lives, quite a few people had actually asked about climate change. What exactly is it? You hear the phrase, you hear people talking about it, but what exactly does that mean to you as an individual, or country, businesses, etc., and as well as water security? We have droughts every year, and it seems as if we are not prepared, as well as NWC is not prepared every single year. But there's a lot that we can do, and this conversation is trying to bring all of that into focus so that we can be as environmentally friendly as possible and be as water conscious as possible. So climate change, water security, those are our topics today. I see we have a few people in our live. Thank you for joining us. um, so this is our third live. Yay! 1, 2, 3. And I do hope that the chats have been informative to you, that you have actually been learning something and actually putting some of these tips that we've been sharing into action. Let us know if there's anything else that we can help you with. Please share that information with us. Either you can DM us, you can send us an email, any way that you feel that you would want to let us know that you want to hear more, or is there something that we can personally help you with, as it relates to any kind of environmental concerns that you have. I know a lot of people are talking about recycling, and a lot of people want to know where exactly you go for recycling. So let us know. And we obviously share the tips from our last conversations with Jason Robinson from Solar Buzz. So we shared that on our social media pages, and those that actually signed up for our newsletter, you were able to receive that in your email. If you signed up and you are not getting your emails, please let us know once again, and we will ensure that that gets sent to you. You might need to check your spam or any other folder that the emails might go to. All right, so I am Shelly and Dunkley. For those that don't know, the viewers that are joining us for this first time, I am the co-founder of Live Echo, and again, we're going to be talking to two respected professionals in their fields. We'll be discussing two areas of great interest to our viewers. And again, this is something that you requested. You wanted to talk about climate change. You wanted to talk about what's the difference between climate change and global warming. That's another thing. So we're here to talk about that today. Um, for the viewers that are new, welcome and thanks for joining us. This is an open space. Feel free to share your thoughts and questions. Please share your questions in the comment section, and we will try to answer them as best as possible tonight. If not tonight, we will definitely reach out to you through the social media pages, as well as respond in the comment section below based on the platform that you are on. Let me tell you a little bit about Live Echo before we jump into our first guest. Live Echo is your resource and consumer guide. We're here to help you live green and be more environmentally aware and become a conscious consumer. going green can be easy. It's really not that difficult. I think a lot of people actually overthink it, but it's small, gradual steps that you can take every single day. And again, it depends on what is of interest to you. You know, if um, plastic bottles is of interest to you, then start recycling. If fashion is interesting to you, then maybe look at the different designers that are out there and what exactly they're doing on their end to be more sustainable and more environmentally friendly. All right. Conversations with Echo is a fortnightly chat where we discuss viewer questions, current topics, and we will always leave you with tips and useful information for you to share uh, in your daily lives. All right, so let us jump into our first guest, um, or first section actually, which will be climate change. And our first guest is Anaite Mills. She has over 9 years of experience working in international development, consulting for highly reputable organizations such as the IDB, the World Resource Institute, and for governments in Latin America and the Caribbean. Anaite has worked for the public sector in Guatemala City in the energy and agriculture sectors with policy analysis and multi-stakeholder engagement. At the IDB, she worked for the energy and climate change sector divisions, covering Trinidad and Tobago and quite a few other Caribbean countries, providing research, technical, and project support, focusing on sustainable energy, climate resilience. That's another term that you guys will hear and probably be like, climate resilience, what does that mean? Climate resilience and low carbon development. Currently, she serves as a consultant climate advisor at the Office of the Prime Minister in Jamaica, where she provides expert inputs on climate finance and resiliency, as well as high level coordination and political positioning within the international climate community. Anaite holds a bachelor's in human resource administration and is currently pursuing further postgraduate studies in climate change and long-term low carbon emission strategies at the University of London. She has also pursued advanced studies in sustainable development, international affairs, project management, energy planning, and climate change. Wow, that's a lot, Anaite. Let us know. Welcome, Anaite.
Hi.
Hi, how are
Thank you for
you?
that introduction.
That's quite a bit. You
It's
should
quite
actually
quite a
applaud
mouthful,
yourself.
right?
Yes, that is great though. You know, congratulations for everything that you're doing.
Thank you. I like that part of the bio, and I like always sharing that because a lot of people think that when you work in climate change, you need to be a scientist or you
Ah,
need to
yes.
study science or something, and not really, really.
Yes.
Climate change is very eclectical,
Yeah. And
to
it's
say
where
the
your
least.
passion takes you. You know, it's
Yes,
really where your passion
absolutely.
takes you sometimes. Um, all right, so let us jump right into it. I think I went through a little bit, but let's again jump into it. What is climate change? What exactly is climate change?
I love that you're posing the question because I do think that one of the biggest weaknesses of climate advocacy
Mm-hmm.
is the fact that we have all these concepts that may be a little bit abstract
Yeah.
or very scientific driven, and that makes difficult for people and average people to relate.
Yes. Yes. Exactly.
So it's really important that we, unpack these concepts that
Mm-hmm.
sometimes are very used interchangeably.
Yeah.
We have on one side global warming,
Mm-hmm.
and global warming refers mostly to the Earth temperature and
Mm-hmm.
the increase in Earth temperature, right? And that is as a result of an increase of production or carbon emissions in the
Mm-hmm.
atmosphere. And
Okay.
those dioxide emissions come from burning fuels.
Okay.
And those particles, to say it in some way, are captured by the atmosphere. And those particles retain heat
Okay.
and radiation. And
Okay.
that creates the so-called greenhouse effect. I don't know if I would like to say hi to the people that are connected. I don't know where they're connecting from, but recently in Jamaica we experienced the Saharan dust. You remember,
Yes,
right, Shelly?
yes, yes. My allergies
And
went crazy.
right, and a lot of people would describe the Saharan dust as almost like we were living in a greenhouse,
Okay.
because the sun was not really getting through. We didn't have any like air kind of moving, and
Mm-hmm.
we felt like we were really and truly living inside a greenhouse.
Yeah.
So the greenhouse effect of these particles or carbon emissions in the atmosphere create that kind of heat retention in the earth that increases the temperature of the
Okay.
surface. So that's
Okay.
global warming.
I like that
That,
explanation. It's pretty simple. Thank you for that.
yeah, yes. And then we have climate change, which
Mm-hmm.
is the change, redundant here, but the change of weather patterns in long periods of time. And
Okay.
this is average in
Mm-hmm.
also globally. And
Okay.
climate change, which
And what
refers to this,
causes that change?
so that is interesting because global warming can be an effect or a cause of climate
Mm-hmm.
change,
Okay.
and it's human induced, right? Because we're
Right.
burning fuels, we're having this activity.
Mm-hmm.
But also climate change can be as a result of changes in global weather patterns,
Mm-hmm. And that's
changes.
natural. That's more natural.
It could be,
Okay.
it's part of the scientific discussion, right? That it
Mm-hmm.
has that it can be human induced,
Mm-hmm.
but it can also have a cause that it could be natural. So that
Okay.
is part of the scientific discussion. And
Okay.
then, I don't know if you remember when President Trump mentioned that kind of infamous quote that climate change was just weather. It's just
Yes.
weather. And weather is the local conditions of
Uh-huh.
any geography or any country,
Okay.
right? And that refers to atmospheric conditions based on, like I say, conditions around the geography,
Mm-hmm.
storms, precipitation, seasonal, and that happens daily. Like we have been experiencing in Jamaica with these rains. We have our normal summertime and our peak summertime and our rainy season, and this
Yeah.
this this weather that we kind of expect every year.
Mm-hmm.
So those are three concepts that are very
Okay.
well connected with each other, and
Okay.
and and for the purposes of this discussion, let's focus on climate change.
All right, all right. So I like that explanation. It was pretty simple. And I think everybody, for the most part, that's viewing, you guys do understand that. If you have any questions in
Mhm,
terms of the definition of climate change, how does global warming affect climate change, etc.,
mhm.
and whether or not it's, human induced, scientifically induced, that is something that you can please put in the comments so that we can, continue our chat. All right, but then how does climate change affect me as an individual, us, Jamaica as a country, and I guess every other
Mhm,
country, and the entire planet? How does
mhm.
climate change affect us? Because it's a topic everybody's talking about now. So how does it
Mm.
affect us?
And that is a really, really good question and a good discussion. And I thank you, Shelley, and the ECO team for creating this space so we can talk about it, because we have experienced this really disruptive year, and we have realized that people really need proof of things when they're
Mm-hmm.
happening, right? They need to relate, they need to see, and COVID-19 was one of those examples where people know there's something going on, but until
Mm-hmm.
you don't know somebody
Yeah,
that is being directly affected by it,
yeah,
it's
it's
hard
true.
for you
Yeah,
to relate, right? So
yeah,
climate change is definitely something that a lot of people think it's somewhere, it's somewhere
yeah.
far.
Somewhere else. Yeah,
It's
yeah.
somewhere
Somebody
else.
else's
It's
problem.
not here. But when you are one day driving, and you leave your house and you're driving to work, taking your normal road or your normal route, and you find that you cannot reach your office because the road where you are supposed to go through it's flooded,
Mm-hmm.
because there was a heavy rain that came out of nowhere,
Mm-hmm.
then that's climate change. That could be climate change, especially if it was extreme and you were not expecting it.
Okay.
Then one day you go to the supermarket and you realize that the normal, your usual vegetables and things that you like, the prices have gone high,
Yeah.
and you don't understand why. You just realize that it's high, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then you have to connect that because there has been a dry season, and the weather patterns have changed because of climate change. The farmers are having an issue, producing the normal crops and yielding the crops
Yeah.
that you're expecting every year. So
Okay.
then the produce is limited, and the
Mm-hmm.
and the little that you have available to you is expensive. So
Yeah.
you have to resort to imported goods that you may not all the time prefer.
Yeah. So that affects. So then climate change affects our food security as well.
It affects your food security, and you can connect it to drought,
Yeah.
to changes in rain. and
Mm-hmm.
then and then you also have you go around your business, you use your electronics, you use your water, and then your bill is going up. Your bill is going up, and you start seeing, like, what is this
Yeah.
JPS bill that is going up? And you realize that the demand is so high because
Yeah.
people are using resources so irresponsibly, that countries have to, and governments and organizations, companies have to meet that demand, and they have to import fuel and import fuel so you can get the energy that you're looking for. And that has an impact, because in producing that energy to you, um, I'm sorry for the noise. I'm
No
close to
problem.
a road.
No problem.
That burning of fuels, it's
Mm-hmm.
happening, and it's contributing to the global warming, right? So there is those little things that you are doing. For
Yeah.
example,
As
taking
individuals.
flights and driving up and down, and burning fuel and having
Yeah.
a carbon footprint. And we can talk about carbon footprints.
Yes.
So you are part of this vicious cycle,
Yeah.
and you are part, and we are all parts of this contribution to this demand and supply and use of resources
Mm-hmm.
that generate this higher activity, this hyperactivity
Yeah.
around the globe, that is really putting a lot of stress on our systems, because we have to understand that we are part of a natural system. We can
Mm-hmm.
we can say that we live in concrete, in buildings, in houses, but we're human beings that are part of an ecosystem.
Yeah.
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 So I think those, if you can unpack the social and the economic impacts that all
Mm-hmm.
of these activities have on a macro level,
Yeah.
economic wise, because you have an agricultural sector that is stressed, a water sector that is stressed, an energy sector that is expensive,
Yeah.
and then you translate that into your pocket,
Yeah.
then you see the economic impacts of
Then you
climate
you feel
change.
it for sure, and I think
Yeah.
at that point, once you're able to make, or people are able to make that connection, and see, all right, well, maybe I could plug out my appliances if I'm not using them, or
Mm-hmm.
even have a power switch for certain things, power switch so that you're able to plug that
Mm-hmm.
out when you're leaving home, so certain devices are turned off. So each of us can do something. It's
Mm-hmm.
not really that difficult again. All right, so tell me a little bit about what the government is doing about climate change.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's very important because climate change is such a global issue, that there is no country at this point in time that is not being affected
Yeah.
or impacted by climate change, either by environmentally wise, or economic wise, or production wise. So we have this issue that has so many complexities, that the United Nations had to step in and say, all right, let us facilitate a global dialogue, because this is a contentious issue that can drive us into war if we are
Mm-hmm.
not careful about it.
Yeah.
So the United Nations created this framework convention for climate change and started the dialogue 25 years ago. A lot of people don't know, but this is a constant
Yeah,
dialogue that has been going
it's
on
been going
for
on for quite some
20,
time. Yeah,
25 years
yeah,
now. And on every discussion, a little advances, a little progress, and so most of the countries in the world have sign up to the Paris Agreement. And the Paris Agreement is this umbrella agreement that sets kind of the pace or the limits of, let's say, if we're gonna warm up the globe, this should be the target. This
yeah.
is our
Let's not
limit.
pass here.
Let's not pass here, because if
Yeah,
we pass this threshold,
yeah,
then this is really potentially very dangerous for countries in the Caribbean or
yeah.
Pacific Islands, or countries in Africa. So Paris Agreement kind of sets this tone, sets these targets, and almost all countries sign up to it. I think the only
Mm-hmm.
exceptions we know is Syria because of conflict, and the United States pulling out of this agreement a couple of, I think about 2 years ago.
Yeah.
And then we have other countries that haven't backed it up, that sign up to it, but haven't
Mm-hmm.
backed it up. Mostly countries that have Lebanon, Turkey, Syria, Egypt, different conflicts and situations.
Yeah.
Afghanistan, Iraq, those
Yeah.
countries that
And
sign
that's
up to this
sad.
agreement.
That's sad because, as you mentioned, climate change, if not managed or properly mitigated, it can cause wars. It can cause serious issues.
Yeah, yeah,
Affect our
absolutely.
food security, water
Hmm.
security,
Hmm.
and our daily lives. It's
Yeah,
not.
because there are aspects of water resources. Some areas in the world have water, and some other areas don't have water. So there's migration issues. When you have drought, you have people that want to move out of there to go to another area that has, more food security. So it generates movements of people and migrations that can potentially create conflicts. And the reason I say all this is because, for example, here in Jamaica, what the government has done has joined that agreement, has
Mm-hmm.
ratified that agreement, and has said, all right, we're little, we're on an island, we don't produce that much emissions, but we're still acknowledging that we are all part of this ecosystem, and
Yeah.
that we all have a contribution. And so Jamaica is doing what we are supposed to be doing at the individual level, right?
Yeah.
Which is, all right, let's save water, let's conserve energy, let's use cleaner energy sources, let's talk about sustainable agriculture, let's talk about diversity,
Mm-hmm.
sustainable tourism. And so those at the government level, that is kind of the discussion that has to happen in each of the sectors. So Jamaica,
Yeah.
for example, has a climate change division that
Mm-hmm.
ensures that the climate change policy at the national level is being implemented, and climate change is being discussed at all sectors, at all
Yeah.
levels of the government, which also includes, gender and education. It's
Mm-hmm.
interesting how climate change really touches everything.
Yeah. Um. All right. So, I mean, yeah, it really it really does touch everything, and it's
Mhm.
sad that we need to actually be more aware of these things. But I mean, this conversation is one of the reasons. You want to make people aware of it, and for them to not just think of it as this scientific thing all above
Mhm.
here where I can't understand it, so it doesn't make any
Mhm.
sense to me.
Yeah,
So what can
absolutely.
I do as an individual, to help mitigate climate change, or, as you mentioned before, in terms of your carbon footprint. How can I understand, well, one, what is my carbon footprint, and
Right.
then how can I help? How can I make a difference as one person?
Well, I think that with any major problem, the first thing you have to do is look at yourself. You
Yeah.
know, be the change that you want to see in people, right? And if you want to change things, and you are, appalled about the impacts of a hurricane, or if you are completely, upset about your energy bill,
Mm-hmm.
then you have to think about, all right, how is my consumption, how is
Yeah.
my behavior here? And I think we do have to pay more attention as individuals about our consumption patterns, and also about our overall attitude towards environment. I
Mm-hmm.
think I
Yes.
think there is this thinking that the environment is these resources that are finite and that they're
Mm-hmm.
always going to be there. Water
Yes,
is always going to be
exactly.
there. Agriculture is going to be there. Forests are always going to be there, and rivers and corals and fish. And no, these resources are getting depleted because
Yeah.
we are growing, our populations are increasing. We can see that there's little urban planning around cities,
But we're
and
also
and
consuming a lot more as well
and we're
as
consuming a
individuals.
lot, a
Yeah.
lot, a lot more because we have also the influence of social media, and we see things and we want those things. and
Yeah.
and I like to think, like, for example, I have started to put a lot of attention to my carbon footprint. And if you're a little bit like me, you may like every now and then a little retail therapy, right?
Therapy.
A
Oh
little
yes, my
shopping.
sister goes to the supermarket at least twice a week.
Right. So that's your
Therapy.
cardio, right? That's what you like, and people like going and going to supermarkets or going and buying stuff.
Yeah.
And so when you go to do these things, like for example, me, I go and I see a pair of jeans and I
Yeah.
love them, and I know, it's gonna look nice, it's gonna look good. I can pay for those. I may have a lot of
You might
pair of
have
jeans,
10
but
at
I
home.
want that, right?
Yep.
But you have to stop and think. You have to really stop and think and say, all right, do I really, what is behind this pair of jeans? And you have to
Mm-hmm.
think that, for example, one pair of jeans consumes about 3,700 liters of water in a
Yeah.
life cycle, a jeans life cycle. And let's say a pair of jeans life cycle is 3 years, 4 years max that you'll be using it. And you have to consider that, the water that it's been used to grow the cotton,
Mm-hmm.
the water that it's been used to
In production.
create the fabric and the
Yep.
production of the denim process, and then the water that is used for the packaging and the
Yeah.
transportation to the stores or wherever you're going to go get that pair of jeans. And then you have to, put in the percentage of water that you're going to be using as a consumer to keep those
Yeah.
pair of jeans clean. If you are
Yep.
like me that wash the jeans, some people
Yeah.
say, oh, no, they look good, I don't need to wash them, but still, you know so that is a carbon footprint. Just thinking
Mm-hmm.
about the resources, the consumption of resources doesn't start when I get the pair of jeans. It
Yeah.
starts a long time before that.
Yeah.
And that is a carbon footprint. That is the footprint of what happened before and how the resources are being used to get to that product that I have in my hand.
Yeah.
It, Similarly, like your sister, she goes to a supermarket. Okay, am I buying, glass? Am I buying in packaging plastic?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe sometimes it happens that glass might be a little bit more expensive,
Yeah.
and you rather, buy in plastic, or I don't know why, supermarkets package, fruits in styrofoam.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm
Sometimes.
always thinking, like,
Yeah. The styrofoam
why?
bottom and then saran wrap it. Yeah.
Right. So you have to start thinking about that, because when you buy things, those things are gonna become waste, and that waste is gonna end up in a landfill, in a dump site,
Or
and
sometimes in gullies.
or sometimes gullies in
Yeah.
Jamaica, and unfortunately in countries in the Caribbean we still struggle a lot with waste management.
Mm-hmm.
And for example, I was reading a statistic that in the U.S. alone 11 billion of kilograms of clothing end up in the landfill,
Wow.
and
Annually?
and annually, yes.
Wow.
So I'm thinking, wow, I wonder in Jamaica and in the Caribbean how does that happen? And in the
Yeah.
United States, you may have waste to energy plants, but in Jamaica there isn't. And all of a sudden you'll hear one day that the dump site caught fire, and
Yeah.
the waste gone, right? Disappear,
Yeah.
problem solved. But
Yeah.
remember that burning waste also generates carbon emissions.
Yes.
And those carbon emissions get trapped in the atmosphere and change the weather patterns. So
Yeah.
everything is a
It's
cycle.
a cycle. And I mean, we hear people talk about it, but at the same time, you really need to think about the steps. And just like you said a while ago, in terms of from growing the cotton, not just the production, but from growing the cotton, you have to
Mm-hmm.
water it, water production in there. um so how does climate change affect, and we touched on it briefly, but kind of a segue into Leanne, our conversation with Leanne. How does climate change affect our water and food security? you know we spoke about the agriculture sector. Is there anything else that you would want to let us know as it relates to water, food security, what is happening now? And I know it's raining,
Mm-hmm.
most recently, but we're getting into
Mm-hmm.
drought season, we're getting into hurricane season.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot. What can I do as an individual? How does it affect us?
Yeah, the especially in the Caribbean, agriculture is still rain fed. People and
Mm-hmm.
farmers, our farmers depend on rain to grow. And when you have changing weather patterns, that changes completely sometimes the dynamics of when they go into crops and when they're putting their crops and where yield and all this planning that goes every year into farming. And then you also have to take in considerations that when you have flooding or you have sea level rise or storms or hurricanes happening, that has an impact into freshwater reserves
Mm-hmm.
under the surface,
Yeah.
and that is being depleted, and that
Yeah.
is an issue that is not consistently acknowledged by
Mm-hmm.
government officials. We have problems of fresh water resources, and that means that we at the national level, programs need to be put in place to keep those freshwater resources, to do better watershed management,
Mm-hmm.
to put in place programs that deal with the storage. In Jamaica, we have the trucking system, and we
Yeah.
believe that trucking is going to solve everything for us. But trucking
But
water
that's another issue.
is super expensive, and it has a
Yeah.
carbon footprint. It has a
Exactly.
carbon footprint, right? And it's super
Yeah.
expensive for average consumers. And so and also you have to also consider urban planning. And there's a lot of
Mm.
construction happening in Jamaica, a lot of buildings are going up, and
Yep.
that's great. You see it happen and you're like, oh, we're building, we're growing.
Yeah.
But that requires water. That
Mm-hmm.
requires water. When we welcome a new cruise, those cruise ships use our water resources
Yeah.
to have the refuel. How do you
Yeah.
say
Resupply.
refuel
Pretty
or
much resupply when they.
resupply
Yeah.
the ship? Right? They
Yeah.
use our water. So and we are one of the very few countries in the Caribbean which has like a good supply of water still. There's other countries that do not have that kind of luxury, like Grenada
Yeah.
or Dominica. And so we're also looking into, all right, maybe in the future we're gonna really have water problems,
Mm-hmm.
much more complex water problems in the Caribbean, and people are gonna look into Jamaica to migrate because the
Yeah.
water is here,
And
right?
then that
And
will
if
be
we don't
another
have
concern.
Right. If we don't have proper management of water
Yeah.
resources, then we're going to run out of water. And we know that food security and water and energy are closely related. The
Yeah.
nexus is too close to not pay attention to that.
Wow. All right. So let us wrap this up for for now. I do want to jump into a comment here. Diane says COVID has really been good at reducing my family's footprint. Grocery shopping every 3 weeks and PJs every day means less washing. PJs every day, really, then, and sometimes occasional skipped bath. Wow. Um,
Wow. Yeah. Diane,
apologies for
Diane, Diane
apologies
is
for loading you up on the live, but that makes sense.
No, absolutely. And actually, Diane is hitting the nail in the head. I was reading another statistic that due to COVID-19 and the reduction in activity, we have seen a reduction of 7% in
Yeah.
carbon emissions globally this
Mm-hmm.
year alone, in the 7 months that we have of this year.
Yeah.
7%. If we are as a globe if we want to meet the targets of the Paris Agreement, and you may have heard that people say we have 10 years, we have 10 years, is because 2030 is the first goal that we have to check that globally we're doing what we're supposed to
Mm-hmm.
do to keep the global temperature at a good limit.
Yeah.
So we have 10 years. And I was reading that for us to achieve that target, we need to reduce emissions 8% each year from now until 2030.
Each year. And how is
So,
that
so,
going?
so putting in perspective, you hear, all right, so COVID-19 had to happen in
Yeah.
the globe for us to stop activity and reduce emissions by 7%.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if we need to reduce emissions by 8% every year until 2030, does that mean that we have to stop activity every year in the same manner that
Yeah, for a few
COVID-19 forced?
months, let's just stop. Everybody goes home or work from home to some extent.
Question,
Yeah,
or not stop, but really all of the activities, all the sectors need to be adjusted
yeah.
to
We
facilitate a reduction in the use of resources.
Yeah. All right. Yeah, we really need to assess, and I believe that's something that we spoke about in the Green Year Biz conversation that we had last week with Richard May.
Mm.
And we were talking about whether or not we need to reconsider, you know, how we do business now, reconsider capitalism. Is it something that we need to look at and assess? And I mean, right now, a lot of persons are possibly working from home. You know,
Mm-hmm.
they're more flexible. Businesses are more flexible, so there should be a reduction in emissions as it relates to transportation. But there's still, I believe, I think I'd read something some time ago saying COVID helped reduce our emissions. However, once people were given the go ahead to, go back about their business to some extent, then emissions rose. Because I think
Yeah.
people felt like, I've been locked up for so long, I need to get out and I'm going to go
Mm-hmm.
everywhere. you know?
Yeah, so
So,
absolutely, that's that kind of COVID-19 situation is not sustainable, but it
yeah.
does poses the question on certain things that need to happen anyways. Like for example, the private sector, companies and business operators, and Leanne is going to tell you about it.
Yeah.
Need to start looking into their carbon footprint, or how do they use resources in their value chains, in their
Mm-hmm.
value productions to get to the products that they need. They need to look into transportation. They need to look into energy efficiency, and buildings and government buildings and corporate buildings
Yeah.
consume a lot of energy.
Yeah.
And everybody knows, because we were stuck at home, working from home, and not using our AC at home
Yes.
because we don't want that energy bill, and missing the
Yeah.
office because in the office we have AC and we don't have to
Yeah.
worry about the energy bill. But it's a problem. It's something that it does affect us. Maybe it gives us comfort at that moment,
Yeah.
but it does affect generally. So there's a lot of things that need to that business operators can look into when
Mm-hmm.
adjusting their operations to incorporate more climate resiliency, more adaptation, more energy efficiency, water efficiency,
Mm-hmm.
and that's a good segue for Leanne. I think
All
she's the
right.
expert.
All right. Thank you so much, Anaite. If you can just wait in the waiting room, we will get back to you soon. All right. So we are on to our next guest, who is Leanne Spence. She is a co-founder and operator of Instant Save Conservation Solutions Jamaica Limited, where she has developed solutions that have helped save more than 100 million liters. That's a lot of potable water in Jamaica in 5 years. She co founded Instant Save Conservation Solutions in 2014 with her father after investigating and resolving an unexplained spike in water usage at her family's business, sorry, coupled with a successful pilot installation at Mother's. Um, Leanne is a certified water efficiency professional from the Association of Energy Engineers and is a graduate of the Women Innovators Network of the Caribbean Accelerator Program. Leanne is also a past student of Holy Childhood High. She received her bachelor's degree in marketing from UWI and a master's degree in international business from the Mona School of Business and Management. All right, let us welcome Leanne. Hi, Leanne. How are
Hi,
you?
Shelly. I'm well. How are you doing?
I am well. I am ready for this chat. Wait, you look like you're in studio though.
Yes, I am borrowed my brother's studio for this cast. But I'm really excited as well. I'm happy everyone is tuned in and instead of pre-independence, they give us a little bit of the time to talk about these issues. And
Yes.
I just love the conversation you're having with Anita earlier. I'm so
Yeah.
excited. Yeah.
Yeah, we ran over a little and I was kept going. I was like, I need to go to Leanne. I need to go to
It's
Leanne.
all right.
But
That's
it was
okay.
really
Yeah.
exciting. I need to put this on screen. Hi, Richard.
Hi,
You can say
Richard. How are you
hi in
doing?
the comments.
Richard is actually the one that you introduced me to Richard, Shelley. Do you remember when you had the eco walk in, was it 2014, Emancipation Park? Do you remember
Yeah,
that?
yeah, man, I remember. Sure.
Okay, good.
Hi, Jason. I see Jason there as well. All right, let's
Hi,
jump right
Jason. Night
into
night.
it. How much fresh, clean water is available on the planet, and what does that mean for our lives?
Okay, so back to our little geography, right? In our social study classes, we learned that 70% of the world is made up of water, right?
Yeah.
And of that 70%, about 97% of it is actually salt water, salty,
Okay.
cannot consume it. The remaining 3% of that water, 2% of it is actually stuck in glaciers and ice. So that leaves less than 1% or just about 1% of freshwater resources for the billions of us in the world to
Yeah.
use. So you already you were thinking about climate change earlier and the impact on our water sources. Let's just put that in context. It's
Yeah.
absolutely going to be affecting our lives, and water is actually, they say, the medium in which climate change is felt. And in Jamaica, this is not, this is so true.
Yeah.
We know what a hurricane is, we know what too much water is, and we know what too little of water is.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm.
All right. So how do consumers use water? I mean, you have business, you have residential.
Mhm.
I know we use a lot of water for a lot of various things, but at the same time, narrow it down for us. Give us a few ways that we use water, and I guess what we can do differently,
Yeah,
and as
so
well as
so
our appliances.
okay. So if you just think about when you wake up in the morning, right? The first thing you do when you wake up in the morning is you do a little stretch, and then where do you go? Most times, no
Coffee
stretching.
first thing, coffee.
Coffee
No
first.
stretching. Yeah.
Okay. So not even the bathroom. Okay. So we head straight to the kitchen and we drink our
Yes.
get our
Yes.
coffee ready, right?
Yes.
And
Let's
by
take
the
a
way,
chicken
coffee,
stretch.
a lot of water is used in making
Bye,
coffee.
Leanne. Bye, Leanne. We're gonna get cut
But we
off.
can still enjoy our coffee. So we have our coffee and we use the bathroom, we flush our toilet, we shower. Some of us, we need to be showering every day, sometimes twice a day, so that we're healthy and fresh. And then we drive off to work. Water, there's a water footprint in our cars as well. And then
Okay.
we drive to work and we make sure we're hydrated because 60% of our body is made up of water. So we have to make sure that we're hydrated. And then throughout the day, we use the bathroom. So water uses for consumers are wide and varied, to cook,
Yeah.
we need it to clean, we need it to drink, and we use it for recreational purposes as well.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right. And then our appliances now, how does that affect our water usage? Is there any way that, when we spoke with Jason some time ago, Jason
Mm-hmm.
spoke about energy efficient appliances. So do we have water efficient appliances?
We certainly do. And at this point, let me make a little distinction that I try to share with persons, the difference between efficiency and conservation. So
Okay.
we call ourselves a conservation and efficiency company. So conservation really has to do with your behavior. How can I adjust my behavior to use less water? So for example, if it's a shower, some of us like our long showers. Maybe I can reduce my shower to 5 minutes. That will be considered conserving water, right? But efficiency instead speaks to the use of technology. So how can I integrate technologies in my existing lifestyle without having to change my behavior as much while achieving the same result of saving water? And that's where
Okay.
we focus. So certainly, our appliances do use a lot of water, and at Instant Save Conservation, we work a lot on those kind of fittings that are inefficient or just use too much water. You know, so we supply and install taps, shower heads, toilets, just all the appliances that use water, and educate persons on how much water is
water. Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
So just for example, 10 years ago when you're purchasing a toilet, it was probably using 3 gallons or 3.5 gallons of water to flush. But the efficiency of technologies and how innovative it has progressed over a period of time,
Yeah.
we now have toilets that use less than one gallon of water to flush.
Yeah.
And remember that toilets are very large users of water and often very big culprits of water wastage. You know, very often, Shirley, when I'm speaking with persons in a corporate environment or just homeowners, I say, you know, when is the last time someone checked their toilet for leaks?
Yeah.
Silent. When is the last time, or do you have a leak at home? And you hear people say, boy, you know, either don't know or boy, you know, it's true, you know, it was running last night and I just, you know, and these are easy fixes in most cases.
Yeah.
Right? Sometimes it's a change of flapper, sometimes it's a fill cycle diverter, sometimes changing your toilet and system completely can just cut the consumption by 50%. So appliances do play a very large role in reducing your water consumption without having to modify your behavior significantly.
Yeah. And I mean, there are other things that you can do as well. You know, I've heard back in the day, put a water bottle with water in there to help displace some of the water. Does that help in any way?
So can I debunk that myth just a little? So yes, it does reduce the amount of water that is used to flush, right?
Okay.
But how sustainable that is up for question, because truth and in fact, toilets are actually engineered to use a certain amount of water. You know, so if it's supposed to flush 2 gallons, it needs to flush 2 gallons. And the moment you try to compromise that, that means you reduce the efficiency of your flush, which would mean what? In many cases, sometimes you have to double flush, which defeats the purpose. You're actually using more water. So it's not something we recommend, but yes, I have heard many persons talk about using displacement tanks or other items to reduce the amount.
All right. So before we run on to our next question, something I actually forgot to mention earlier. I should have done this from the get-go. So Leanne is actually going to be doing a giveaway, and you kind of have to be here until the end to know what it is. Well, actually, there are more. She's going to be doing 30 giveaways. So the first 30 people that register, you're going to be getting a gift. And then at the very end, she's going to give away 2, is it water saving
kits?
Water saving kits. Yes, that's what it is. All right. So make sure you stay until the end so that we can chat on that. All right. So where does NWC get most of its water, Leanne? And we're not going to attack NWC.
No, we're not. And we're not going to get too technical either. So it's you know, we have our underground water reserves as well as we have our surface water reserves. So a majority of the water that NWC uses is underground. However, in Kingston and St. Andrew, a significant amount of water is from surface flows. You know, example, or dam. We rely on our Hermitage and Mona dams, which, by the way, are below 40% right now.
Thanks, Leanne.
You're welcome.
Okay, so that's how they use it for the most part. So what does that mean? Because we've been hearing a lot about the rural countries, rural cities that actually don't have piped water to them right now. So is it that they're going to be pulling from Hermitage and Mona when, you know, that's actually not even enough for what is currently serving?
So it depends on where in Jamaica you are, right? We're talking about climate change earlier. And even though Jamaica is one island, we still have varying rainfall patterns throughout the island. So we have some parishes that get more water than some, right? So there's still parishes that may seem unaffected to things like shortages. But accessibility is still an issue, and that relates to where persons are residing, right? It's very often the case that persons are residing in areas that do not have pipe connections, or have pipe connections that just lead to a standpipe, and then they have to come together and get their water. So we're still, depending on which part of Jamaica you're in, we're still having a lot of accessibility issues with water.
Okay. Should we be concerned when we hit drought season? What should we be doing differently during droughts, before droughts, during droughts? And I actually haven't had any notices from NWC about droughts. So is that something they should be sending to us? Like in our bill, them send you a bill. You get your
They
bill
are,
every
yes,
month,
yes,
so
yes.
I'd like a notice to come along with that if you're going to be locking off something.
So from my experience, you have to kind of look for the notices. You have to be following their social media channels. You have to be checking their websites, because there are some prohibition notices about water consumption right now related to using potable water for non-potable purposes. So, washing cars, watering your lawn. They're actually trying to discourage that at this time because the reservoir levels are so low. Right. However, the question was, should we be concerned during dry season? We should be concerned 365 days of the year, and concerned because it is something that happens each year, right? It's something that we need to get ourselves prepared for, so that we're not only being efficient with our water use and conserving our water use when we know that supplies are low, but right throughout the period. So you and IT was talking earlier about the supply and demand dynamic for water. And it's what's been interesting is the more I'm in the industry, I realize that a lot of conversation surrounds how do we increase our supply, right? All of us, we talk about solutions and we say, okay, well, this is how we solve it. We just need a bigger dam. This is how we solve it. We just need to create, more and more and more storage. But if you think about a strainer or a colander, if you continue to pour more water into the colander and it still has holes in it, then this water is going to continue to leak and waste. And you'll be in that vicious cycle of trying to create more supply without managing the demand, which is why we focus on what we do, which is the demand management side of things.
Okay. All right. Water harvesting, rainwater. I'll give you a couple of phrases. Rainwater harvesting, water harvesting. That's
water capture, roof capture. So it's not a new.
Should we be doing that?
We should be doing that, yes. But ultimately, with all things with rainwater harvesting, we want to know what we're going to be using our water for. But it's absolutely encouraged, and it's not something that's new. It's not a new idea, right? If you drive around Jamaica, zinc roof, concrete roof, everybody is capturing water into drums and then using it for various purposes around their house. Why it is becoming imperative that we look at it now is because of these shortages. We need to find new sources of water or more storage of those sources of water. And for us, we firmly believe that the most cost-effective strategy to immediately address the water concern is the use of demand management, right? But also rainwater harvesting does serve to complement or supplement your existing water use. So for example, we were speaking the other day, you have a little plant in your background there, and we were and I'll share with you, Shirley, I'm sorry, I hope you don't feel too bad, but you were telling me that your plant you were feeding it water and it just started to die. And I said, well, have you tried rainwater? Because plants love the minerals and it works, right? And you notice that it flourishes. So we actually don't need to be using potable treated water from the NWC to be watering our gardens, because that water, that the cost of that water, and Anita mentioned it earlier, is energy intensive, right? We use energy to treat, we use energy to distribute the water, and we use energy to remove the water and retreat, and that whole process. That cycle. So inherent in every gallon of water that we use or lose is an energy cost. So that's very, very important to consider too.
Actually, I want to take a question. Diane here says, "What are your guidelines for flushing toilets?"
Diane, thank you so much for that question. So what Diane is asking really is what are the standards or rates for efficiency, which is super, super important. And I really want to share that with you guys. When you are purchasing fixtures, it is important to know there are 2 units of measure that are used. It's either gallons, well, 3 gallons per flush as it relates to toilet, gallons per minute as it relates to faucets and shower heads, or gallons per cycle as it relates to the washing machine, right? Okay, so for your toilet, the guideline is between 0.8 gallons and 1.28 gallons of water per flush. Now, this is what you need to arm yourself with when you're going to shop. I try to, speak and these are guidelines that are set that we benchmark internationally, right? So we have aligned ourselves with WaterSense, which is a international voluntary agency that has a labeling standard for appliances, as well as just educates people generally about water efficiency. But there are many others. Australia has Wells, the UK has WaterWise. So they've pretty much said that all appliances need to be operate within this range of water use without compromising performance. Because I think a lot of persons got fearful when they tried a new technology 10 or 15 years ago, and it wasn't performing as it should, meaning use more water than it needed to. But it has significantly improved. So Diane, thank you so much for that question. When you're shopping, shop with us. But if you're shopping around, ask the representatives, how efficient is this toilet? What is the gallons per flush? What is the gallons per minute for this faucet before you purchase it? And that way, more people become educated about it.
Yeah, and that's the other thing. You need to arm yourself with that information. But I think in our conversation prior to this, it's something that if you go into a store and the customer rep doesn't know this, or the information is not readily available, and this person is selling a toilet, and it might be an efficient toilet to some extent, but the information isn't there, then you kind of have to be wary and be like, well, do you really know what you're talking about? Because I've been places and people just throw stuff in the air like, yeah, that's it. Or you give them information and they're like, yeah, that's what it does. Like,
yeah. And it's the same for energy too, right? So if you're purchasing something and they say, oh, it's an energy saving product, it's a water saving product, that's still very general. How much water does it use? Because that's the information you need to be able to make a decision.
All right, so we touched on the appliances and the technology that's available. How can people save on their water bill?
Okay, many ways that you can save on your water bill. But do you want us to, at this time, just go through our water bill very quickly? I want to just highlight some things on it. Let me see if I can share my screen here. Okay, are you seeing my shared screen?
No, not yet.
Not yet, okay.
No?
Okay, here we go. How about now? No?
No,
but it
sure.
says
Are
it's
you
sharing.
seeing this on your end?
I am.
No.
All right. So I'm just going to talk you through it then.
What we'll have to do is probably share with our guests at the end.
But everybody really you remember some items in your water bill, right? And I remember Jason's from Solar Buzz, he was speaking about the energy, the electricity water bill, and there are lots of similarities between the water bill and the energy bill. So you want to know how much you use, right? Now when you look at your current consumption in your water bill, it's in thousands of liters. So I'm looking at one that says 11,000 liters, right? Now, what's important to note when you're looking at your water bill is that when you're comparing your water bill from month to month, you can't just look at it and say, oh, I used 11,000 this month and next month is 30,000 liters, right? There is something on the water bill that speaks about the number of days, right? Now, these are the number of days in your bill cycle, meaning the time period between when the NWC meter reader comes and reads your bill.
Yeah.
Now, if you're using, say you're using 10,000 liters of water in 30 days, and your next bill comes and you're using the same 10,000 liters, but the bill reading dates are now 32.
Ah, okay.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's more time. So your second bill means that you've been using less water in your second bill. So it's
Yeah.
important that you look at your bill, you build the
Actually
number
never
of
thought
days in your
about
bill
that.
cycle, right? A
Yeah.
lot of people get frightened by that.
Yeah.
The same thing applies with the estimated bills. You're not supposed to receive more than 2 consistent estimated bills, or you need to be
Okay.
speaking with someone at the NWC or OUR. It's also important that you're looking at your trend. That's a graph that's located on your bill to see how much you're using over a period of a year. That can give you a good indication. So those are like 2 important areas to look at. In terms of the charges, in January of this year, the NWC actually had some rate increases. So you'll notice that your water charges and your sewer charges have increased. I think the sewer charge has increased by 15%. It's actually more than your water charge now. And
Okay.
your sewage charge, you have to pay for water going into your property and you pay for water going out, particularly if you're within 100 yards of an NWC main. All right. So those are just things that you should consider when you're looking at your water bill. NWC also has what's called a block rate structure. Are you familiar with that?
No.
No. Okay. So think about like a set of stairs, right?
Yeah.
So the first 14,000 liters of water you use is billed at a certain rate. After that point, and they have it with the JPS bill as well. After that point, the next, I think, 16,000 liters, you're billed at a higher rate.
Yeah.
So this is them discouraging you from using more water, but also an incentive for you to try to stay in the lowest block possible, right?
Okay.
And it's also important to remember that your water is affected by how many people are in the house. So it's gonna, occupancy greatly affects your water bill, as well as leaks greatly affect your water bill, and inefficient appliances greatly affect your water bill. So if we're talking about how to save on your bill, it's how to save on water, right?
Yeah. All right. All right. I think this is a good segue to bring Anaite back into the chat. Anaite.
Hi.
Hi. Oh, you
Hi,
dressed up.
Leanne.
You come back
Love
with your
it.
Happy Independence.
Yay.
All right.
Yes.
Let's take some viewer questions. Diane, Jason was talking Spanish for a hot second.
I have to say that I love listening Leanne talking about water conservation and efficiency. She makes it look so simple, and
she does.
I'm so very proud of how you have grown your business and the impact you're doing in Jamaica, Leanne. It's amazing.
Thank you so much.
What you calling out, girl?
I'm so proud of what's happening right here. Just this dynamic discussion where we get to make an impact, because it's going to go beyond what we're talking about here, right?
We're taking viewers away from their preferred Netflix episodes, so we have to make it nice. We have to make it sexy here.
All right, let's see what Jason is saying now. Leanne, how's your relationship with NWC? I've noticed that NWC tends to overcharge by sending consumers at least one extremely high bill. Really?
That no one can.
You know about that, Leanne?
We have many customers that come and they're just outraged by spikes in their water consumption that often they feel are unexplained and try to seek some refuge from the NWC, and it's not. There's sometimes no recourse or no resolve, or they don't, give you that relation. So I wouldn't be surprised. I can't say if I know it as a fact, but I've seen some instances where it spiked. So we end up paying almost our entire yearly NWC bill in 1 month.
I've never actually experienced that, but is that more residential or commercial, you think?
I've
been hearing more residential stories than commercial stories.
And I have heard that there's a lot of for example, losses from water production or water distribution that the consumers are covering for those losses to the company. And that happens to the energy bill as well. So probably
Yeah, I was just gonna say that. Yeah.
Jason is very well knowledgeable on energy about that problem of loss as well.
Yeah, and that's what they consider to be non-revenue water. Any leaks in the distribution system. That I think over the last 3 years they've made some pretty hefty investment in trying to repair that distribution network and infrastructure. But it's super capital intensive, and those costs are passed on to us on our water bills. I believe it is the X factor of the water bill.
I actually had a viewer question from earlier when we did some surveys earlier. I think it was in July, and some viewers actually sent in quite a few questions prior to this. So one of the questions, as you can see here, Richard brings across the same question is, what are your recommendations for developers? And Naite, I'd like you to jump in on this as it relates to climate change. And then Leanne, you can speak on, water security or conservation management, the various angles. What do developers need to do?
Well, Richard knows my struggles with constructions around my house, and I am growing more concerned about the perceived lack of regulation and enforcement on building codes and urban planning in Jamaica. I think that is an issue that has to be brought up to the attention of our authorities, and there needs to be a better enforcement on building codes. I think if houses, buildings, any infrastructure developers take climate into consideration, and climate change and water efficiency, energy efficiency and conservation, and envelope of the building, roofing, indoor gardens, catchment, everything that can happen. And Richard is an expert in that. That will change a lot the dynamics of urban development, especially because we're growing. This population is growing. It's growing rapidly and disorganized. So we definitely working on advocating for better enforcement and for an improvement in building codes in Jamaica. I think. Like I was saying earlier, buildings are in cities are large consumers of water and energy, and that is something that needs to be paid attention very closely.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with you, because the truth of the matter is that we're just not building for efficiency. We're not. In many cases, and some developers will share outrightly, they're building for profit. They're building as quickly as they can, 6-story buildings sometimes out of what a regulatory code would require, and trying to sell it as soon as possible. And we see our real estate market very active, where as soon as it goes up, people are buying. But then on the other side of it, I'll have friends that or know someone who purchases a property and then immediately changes all their appliances because the appliances that are installed are substandard, right? As well, we're just not building for sustainability for both energy and water. We're not building the rainwater harvesting systems that we should be in new construction, which is going to be so much cheaper, more cost effective than actually
retrofitting,
right? And in short term as well, right?
Yeah.
And using gray water where possible, and putting efficient appliances for energy and water and solar that can be amortized over a period in a loan, and that difference would be almost insignificant to a household that's paying a monthly loan over 30 years, right? So it does need a lot of education. It does need a lot of enforcement.
Yes.
That's the top code, right? Because we would have, you'll have your building code, and we write all these beautiful regulations, But is there anyone to enforce it on site?
Mhm.
What, from a municipal point of view,
Mm-hmm.
is there buy-in from the architects and the quantity surveyors and the
Yeah.
developers to look beyond short term,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Or just the
and
profit. Look beyond the profit.
look, and it's still profitable. They can
Yeah,
still
it
be,
is. It is.
super profitable, and there's still appliances that are very aesthetically pleasing while enabling us to be able to meet our mandates for
Mm-hmm.
efficiency and conservation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's a conversation I have very often with developers and just try to encourage them. And
Yeah.
it's also something that I realized that the Jamaica National Foundation,
Mm-hmm.
through the water project, that's funded by international agencies such as the IDB and the, oh, what's that
The
there?
water
Is that
project,
your kit?
Oh, that's our
Oh.
kid.
the
Oh,
water efficiency kit.
there's nothing in that box. I hope everything is installed.
Yeah.
Solid. But yeah, so that project is a means to do the very same thing, Richard. Provide loan facilities for persons to access these water adaptation solutions and provide finance for developers so they don't have to upfront, significant capital expense
Investment. Mm-hmm.
and are they able to manage their finances a lot better without just passing it on to the
Yeah.
consumer in a significant way. So
Yeah.
so there's a lot of work to be done. But thank you for that, Richard. I think we all need to keep that conversation going.
I believe this is for you, Leanne. Jason is asking about X and K factors on the water commission.
Right. So both of them relate to capital infrastructure costs for the NWC. What does that mean? That means when they change out our meters and when they do these non-revenue reduction projects, any efficiency gains from that investment, we see it on our bill as X factor, which means it's a credit that they're giving us back. They're saying, hey, we did this infrastructure, and this is how much we're passing on to you as savings. Whereas the K
Nice.
factor, which is the larger amount, is actually what is used to fund these projects. So this is an added item to your bill.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. So K is the larger factor, and that's
Mhm.
a charge, and then the
That's a
X.
charge. And it's about 20%, while the X factor is about 5%.
I got really excited.
And the X factor is
That's why,
basically PR.
yes. It's basically
really
PR. And it's trying to let you know that, there are some efficiency gains, and they want to pass it on to you, but it's really not a significant amount that's being credited.
Wow. All right, we have a question here from Douglas, and I think after this we'll probably have one or two more questions, and then we will do our giveaway. So, Leanne, this is for you. Does Jamaica participate in any international protocols which monitor the conservation of water? Is there a policy framework that is enforced beyond the normal National Water Commission prohibition notices? That's a good question. Leave it to Douglas.
That's a very good question. So there are several policies and codes related that speak about water. And I need to mention the climate change policy. There's actually a water sector policy paper. There's a national water sector policy and implementation plan, and there's a national building code, right? From all of those codes, which I'll have to admit that I have not read extensively because codes are extremely long, there is not much that speaks to water conservation. There's actually a call for a green building code or green plumbing code, which speaks specifically to the conservation of water. So, Mr. Livermore, what I'll say right now is that I am not aware of any protocol that monitors specific conservation, but I know that it's in every sense encouraged, and that's what we do a lot of. We encourage the efficiency and we encourage the conservation, and I'm sure it is there in writing that we encourage the rainwater harvesting and the grey water systems.
It's always in writing.
But we're not seeing a lot of enforcement as it relates to what people are actually doing and
I think
implementing.
that's our biggest
on
problem across the board. Enforcement, waste management enforcement is an issue. But it's something that we need to work on, and this is why we're having these conversations to make people, inform them about what is happening and what steps they can also take as individuals. And Naite, I have a question here for you.
Mm,
Hellshire,
mm,
Beach. Woo!
yeah,
I remember when I was
very
away.
sad.
I lived away for quite a few years. I'd say maybe about 7, 8 years.
Hmm.
And when I came back, I realized that there was no beach. There was the shops
It
and
was
then the
gone.
water. And I was like, what happened here? So tell me, what exactly happened here? And where is our shore? And what can we do to prevent this?
Well, what you have observed in what we all have observed in Hillshire, and actually in many other coasts in coastal areas in Jamaica, I think also Treasure Beach. It's one another example is it's what it's called coastal erosion or coastal shoreland retreat, and
Okay.
it's a combination of a natural phenomena, basically tidal wave or the sea energy moves and retreats the sediment and the bedrock. So it removes
Mm-hmm.
sediment and moves the bedrock that affects and impacts and retreats the land, the shoreland.
Okay.
It can be caused by natural phenomena. So you have seen in other coasts in other countries and even in Jamaica that after a few years it may come back. It
Uh,
may be there again. That is
Fingers crossed for Hell Show.
so that is an optimistic way to look at it. But
Okay.
also it can be caused by human activity, and that's the other side of it. And that it can be caused by construction, resorts, hotels construction, road construction, and also sea walls and groins. That type of infrastructure can have that kind of sediment removal and movement
Mm.
of the bedrock that causes that coastal erosion. Also, sand mining can
Uh,
affect
yeah.
and produce that kind of coastal erosion, and also the damage to the coral reef, because the coral reef creates the tidal wave,
Yeah.
and everything is part of an ecosystem, right?
Yeah.
So that when you have illegal fishing, and that's why some of us are very loud about parrotfish consumption. I
Girl,
love
you took the
parrotfish,
words
and
out of my mouth. I was just gonna
yeah,
say
yeah,
that.
and
Segue
I
to do
like
not
it.
eat parrotfish.
I understand it's a sensitive issue in Jamaica because people say, no, but when we love parrotfish, and fine, yeah, I love it too. But the problem again is enforcement. It's illegal
Mm-hmm.
fishing. Is
Yeah.
is not being able to allow a natural system to
Mm-hmm.
renew, and you get
Yeah.
this baby fish when you go to restaurants and you're like, no, but you have to let it grow. You have to let
Yeah.
the fish cover grow. So those are like illegal fishing has an impact as well
Yeah.
on coral reefs. Coral reefs have, when they're damaged, they don't produce that tidal wave that is necessary to create that kind of cycle that allows a shoreland or a coast to be healthy. So you
Yeah.
can have two possible causes to coastal erosion.
Okay.
And can
Um.
I just ask on the point of the parrotfish? Because I used to love eating parrotfish as well until I was
Like
educated.
a good Jamaican.
Right? But the mindset, because I'm encouraging, everybody to stop, but the mindset is still when you go to the beach, but Leanne, the fish dead already. The fish is dead already, so I just have to eat it because it doesn't make a difference anyway.
Yeah.
But
Demand and
what
supply makes a difference.
exactly what happens is when you say no from that one parrotfish and then it's aggregated amongst everybody saying no, that fisher stops fishing for parrot because there's no demand for it,
Hmm.
right? And that's how you get that impact that we need. And
Which.
lionfish tastes just
And
as good.
Yeah.
lionfish, I completely agree.
I
Lionfish
I am
tastes
yet to try
good.
it. I really wanna try it. I'm so disappointed in myself that I've not tried it. Um,
Yeah.
because
So
that is
that
an
that
invasive species. It's here. and it's something that it's edible. We can definitely try it. I think it's just a matter of us telling people and talking about it.
So definitely those are really important activities, human activities that need to be adjusted. Again, we're talking about behavior here. Large part of our contribution to combating or responding, adapting to climate change is about behavior. Behavior at the individual level, at the society level, community level, in our families, in our corporate world, and in the national agenda and political agenda.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I'll just add that behavior is also the hardest thing to change.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Which is why the use of technology can also greatly assist us to get where we need to be in terms of, the targets that we're trying to get for energy and water efficiency. It has to be those two things. It has to be behavior change, and it has to be use of technology.
Yeah.
Okay. Leanne, I have one last question, and then we'll do our giveaway. A viewer had sent this in some time ago. Will COVID, yes, we need to do that. Will COVID and the constant washing of our hands, etc., affect our water supply and our waterways?
Absolutely. So when COVID first happened, when the cases started to show up and we went into lockdown, what people realized is that a significant amount of water use now happened in their home versus, in a business place. But separate from that, there was a very big increase in water use. We had to use more water for washing our hands. And they're still running ads, and the Ministry of Health is still telling us, don't touch your face, 6 feet apart, wash your hands. For 20, and remember to be washing your hands for 20 seconds. One of my biggest pet peeves that I spoke actively about was rubbing your hands together for 20 seconds with soap does not mean that the water needs to be running for 20 seconds, right? You can turn the water off for that 20 seconds while you're getting the germs and bacteria off your hands, and then rinse your hands with water as much as you need to be clean. But people were just hearing that message, wash your hands, wash your hands, wash your hands, as well as wash your clothes and just use more for cleaning and sanitization of your environment and your building.
So you can use sunlight to put your clothing in the sunlight, and you don't have to wash immediately.
Right. But a lot of people were just still washing. So I am, absolutely sure that if the NWC releases information related to consumption or demand during that time, and no, because it's kind of becoming a new normal for us to continue to do these practices, it would have escalated significantly. And then on the other hand, what Richard pointed out in your last eco conservation conversation is that, the use of, this water and these chemicals are being now released into our waterways. So are we considering the use of the sanitizers and alcohol and things like that? Some of which, when COVID just started, we didn't know where it was coming from. I remember I bought a sanitizer from a pharmacy like the week after, and something didn't feel right. I knew that the balance of chemicals was off, right? And just having that going to our waterways can significantly pollute the waterways and do the reverse of what we're trying to achieve, which is secure our water resources. So
absolutely,
definitely.
All right, ladies, before you leave, we are actually going to do Leanne's giveaway. Leanne, you have the questions, because I just created 2 questions here. You have any questions?
No, shoot with your questions, Shelly. I feel confidence in you.
All right, so first question, and the first person to respond in the comment section will get one of those water saving kits. List one of the 2 areas we should look out for on our water bill. Leanne, you remember those, right?
Yes. I hope you remember too, because we know.
All right, so list one of the 2 areas Leanne mentioned that you should look out for on your water bill. I'm like, what's happening with the camera? What's happening back there?
Oh man, nobody's responded yet.
Nobody? All right, Anita. But then you have a water saving kit.
I have.
You can give it to somebody.
I think we could definitely use the Twitter to continue the conversation and see if we can have some giveaways there. Yeah.
All right. What's that now? Diane says graph. Mm.
No.
Yeah, the water use graph that shows you the trend of your water use over a period of a year.
Well, okay, so
That can tell you if
that
there are
That's
any
what you need.
spikes in the
applies.
historical
All right.
use for water. So you
Applies.
can do
Diane,
Applies.
that, yeah.
Yeah.
Diane,
I
you are the
agree.
winner.
Congrats. So let me tell you what you got. So you got yourself a water efficient shower head, aerators for your bathroom and your kitchen, leak detection tablets for your toilet,
Wow.
a fill cycle diverter for your toilet. It's going to help to reduce the amount of water that's wasted every flush. So it's just a jam-packed
That's
kit
amazing.
of easy to install items that you're going to see an impact on your water bill. So
That's
congrats.
amazing, kit. Yes.
All
Thank
right.
you.
And last question for the water saving kit will be, what are a few things, and you can probably list one, just list one thing. What are a few things that affect your water bill in terms of things that you do to affect your water bill? Yay, Diane. She's happy she win. All right. While we wait on that last response from whoever that winner is going to be, the other giveaways, please, Richard, you have to answer the question. You have to list one of the things that affect your water bill. So the other giveaway, we are going to be posting that at 9:30. Look out for that on our Facebook. You're going to have to live in Jamaica. There are a couple rules. Live in Jamaica. Consumption. Wait, what's happening? Consumption. Evadne. Oh gosh. Wait, which one is it? What are a few things that affect your water bill? Consumption, leaks. Leanne.
Leaks.
Yeah.
Leaks.
Okay. Evadne, you are a winner.
Woo, woo.
Yeah,
And
definitely.
a picture. All right. So
And that's an
Evadne,
important one.
yeah. All right.
You
Oh,
know,
so
and
the other giveaways, Leanne is going to be giving away 30 prizes.
Wow.
Those are, what are those again?
so they're leak detection tablets. You remember earlier we were talking about how our toilet is a main culprit for leaks.
Yes.
One of the easy ways to check for leaks in your toilet is to use leak dye tablets. So there are 2 tablets in here. You're going to drop one into your toilet tank. It's going to change the water in your toilet tank. Wait 10 minutes. After that time, you're going to check the bowl of your toilet, and there should be no, coloring in that bowl. It should be just fresh, clean water. If you notice that the coloring from your tank is in your bowl, you got a leak.
Don't flush. Don't flush.
And don't flush. Yeah, and don't flush before. Yeah.
All right. So the
That's
rules
great.
for the next giveaway: you must be living in Jamaica, must be 18 years and older, must be able to show an ID when you go to Leanne to collect, and only Jamaicans living in Jamaica. Well, living in Jamaica. Once you're living in Jamaica, you're fine. You're eligible. All winners are expected to collect their prize within 15 days from Leanne at Instant Save. All right, so we're going to be posting that on our Facebook page. You also need to be following Live Echo in order to be eligible for the prize. We will post it on our page, and you'll be able to, answer the questions there. Well, you just need to submit your name, actually. All right, and the first 30 people.
Follow Instant
People.
Save.
So tell your friend, tell your mom, tell your auntie.
Follow us all.
Yes, follow us all.
Yeah. All right. Thank you, ladies. This was an amazing chat. I think everybody walked away with quite a few tips that they can actually go home or they're probably home. They can start doing at home. The climate change chat, United. Thank you. That was enlightening. I liked how you actually, you brought it down from not just a scientific, chat. You made us know one-on-one, this is what it is, you as an individual talking to us. So thank you for that. And Leanne, thanks again.
Thank you.
All right, thank you guys for being here, and we'll see you in 2 weeks. That will be August 19th. We'll be chatting again. All right, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thanks,
Happy
everyone.
Independence.
Happy Independence. All the best.
Bye.
Good. Bye.